Welcome to the episode number 9. Up to this point, we have already covered a lot of topics which are important for your basic coffee knowledge. We have started from the farm, where we have different species which we described and the difference between those species. Then we have spoke about the harvesting of the coffee cherries, then processing of the coffee cherries. Then we have mentioned the green beans and the roasting process, after which comes the sensory evaluation of the coffee. What we didn't say last time, and it's maybe a little bit important for you to know, usually sensory evaluation or coffee grading is done with freshly roasted coffee, and that's their standard for that is usually between 8 and 24 hours after roasting. So if we today roast the coffee, we can schedule to evaluate coffee through the cupping protocol for the day tomorrow, between 8 and 24 hours after the roasting. Now it's time for us to talk about brewing methods. So coffee, once it's roasted, is full of gases from the roasting process. What we do after 8 and 24 hours after roasting is that we can do a sensory evaluation of the coffee and to make a flavor profile for the coffee. But for the brewing method and for the brewing whichsoever, we need to wait a little bit longer. Usually that period for the coffee degassing is between 7 and 14 days. That's the period in which usually coffee releases enough gases to still remain fresh, but to not leave the traces of the smoky flavor into the coffee. So let's say if we start to use our beans after 10 days. So imagine that we have a roasted beans, whichever roast profile, however roasted, light, medium or dark. So we have a coffee beans, certain coffee which need to be made, need to be brewed. And today we will talk about the methods how that coffee can be brewed. Each coffee, regardless of the method, is coffee. Let's simplify like that. So it can be brewed on many different methods. Many different methods include the espresso method from espresso machine, which is called pressurized method. Then we have manual brewing methods. We have automatic brewing methods, which are called as a gravity method. Then we have immersion methods, which are most commonly French press and clever dripper or cold brew. Then we have boiling methods, which can be Turkish coffee, vacuum method, which can be siphon. So those beans that you have roasted after 7 days and 14 days can be brewed in many different methods. In most of the cases, the roasters are usually roasting intentionally coffee for the filter methods, for the espresso methods, or they just roast for the roast that they have applied on the beans can be used for all methods equally. What is very important to mention here, when we are brewing coffee, our coffee need to be freshly grounded. After we freshly grounded our coffee, we are starting to apply water on the coffee through different methods, on the different ways. But once when water comes into the contact with the ground coffee, extraction of that coffee starts. By playing with the grind size of the coffee, we can make our coffee to be properly extracted for the certain method, or under extracted or over extracted. Also, it's very important the water temperature that we are applying on the coffee. Usually that's the range between 90 and 96 degrees Celsius for the light and medium roasted coffees. Most probably for the little bit medium to dark roasted coffees, you want to go a little bit with a lower temperature than 90. Since coffee is already dark roasted and bitter, you don't want to increase that bitterness through the high temperature of the brewing water. So as we said, we have a different brewing methods, and we also can apply a different filter media for those brewing methods. Espresso machines, they have a metal filters, as you already probably know, but when we are doing a manual brewing can be done with a couple of different filters. Manual brewing can be done with the most commonly used paper filter, can be done with the cloth filter, and can be done with the metal filter. All of those filters are giving different characteristics to the coffee, and usually and most commonly used for the manual dripper or gravity dripper or the manual pour overs, however you want to call them, the most usable is the paper filter, which gives the most clear flavor and no taints into the coffee. When we are using the cloth filter, usually coffee can have a traces of the cloth in the flavor profile as a small taint, or if you are using the metal filter, you can find the metal traces and iron traces in the flavor profile, which is not so pleasant. Also, cloth filter and the metal filter are extracting the more body in the coffee than the paper filter. But as I said, most commonly used filter in the manual pour overs or gravity filters or is paper filter. When we are talking about the coffee to water ratio, different methods are applying different ratios. Recommended ratio from SCA for the manual brewing is on 1 gram of the coffee to be 15 grams of the water as the strongest, so 1 to 15, or as the lightest 1 to 20. So from 1 to 15, 1 to 20, that ratio is mostly applied for the gravity drippers such as V60, origami dripper, Kalita, or as an automatic brewer, which is also the gravity dripper. And that ratio is also can be also applied for the immersion brewers such as Clever dripper, for example, or French press. By the way, French press is using a metal filter as well, so that's why if you ever drink the French press, you could see the very cloudy texture of the coffee, because the holes on the filters are a little bit bigger, so more substance and oil are can go through that filter. But not all the methods are using 1 to 15, 1 to 20 ratio, or if you want to say it, in 50 to 65 grams per liter. So mostly that ratio, as I said, is applicable for the gravity drippers, manual or automatic gravity drippers, and is applicable for immersion brewers. For example, espresso methods, pressurized methods, are using significantly shorter ratio, which is mostly recommended. The starting point for that method is 1 to 2 ratio. That's why we have espresso very concentrated. That's why we have espresso as a very, very concentrated beverage and coffee overall, and strong. Ibrik, which is Turkish coffee, usually it's around 1 to 6, 7, 8 ratio. Then we have a siphon, which is using lower than 1 to 15. Let's say 1 to 11 or 12. So there is a lot of different methods with a lot of different coffee to water ratio recommendations. Official SCA recommendation for the coffee brewing is the 1 to 15 or 1 to 20, up to 1 to 20. So all in between can be applicable as a coffee to water ratio, and can be also calculated as a 50 to 65 grams per liter. And that ratio is mostly applicable for the manual, for the gravity drippers and for the immersion brewers. And other methods most likely will produce the beverage out of that recommended ratio, and those methods are siphon, espresso method, Turkish coffee, and so on. I'm pretty much sure this is, as a coffee beginners, these standards will be a little bit confusing for you, since if you're coffee beginners, you probably didn't experience all of those brewing methods yet. But don't worry, after this course you can enroll brewing and barista course, and you will know much more better, and you have a much more clear picture of how coffee brewing and different methods are actually working. So that was all for episode 9. I hope this field of the brewing methods, which is most probably not so well known for you as a coffee beginners, I hope these informations and will push you to learn more, and to learn more you will be able to learn more in my brewing classes and barista skills classes, which will be published after this online course. So if you enroll in those courses, you will have a much more clear picture how brewing methods are working and how coffee is made, how can be made through the couple of different methods. Thank you very much for watching this episode, and see you in the episode number 10.